I'm the host for the evening, and my name is Srikant, and I'm hosting this talk show on behalf of the IIT Alumni, which is based out of Singapore and also across the world. So today we have a very special speaker. Kannan Sundar Rajan is known as Coach K. I like the name Coach K. And you can see the slide there. I went through his website and I had to spend a lot of time to put things together. So this is his background. He's an ultra marathoner. Something special about him is that at the age of 42, he ran 42 full marathons for 42 weeks to spread awareness about traffic.
Yes.
He will talk more about it when he's giving the talk. He also has done a 160 kilometers ultra run. I first met him in 2017 when I had gone for my ultra 50k, and he was running his 110k. We shared the same room. That is when I first met him. Though I have heard a lot of good things about him. In fact, in 2016 Bangalore Marathon, I think one of the runners got hit by a vehicle or something like that, and Kannan was there. He just dropped the race and he just went and helped that person, got an ambulance. That story he will say, because I don't know the full story, but I know that he was the person who was there doing it. And I saw people talking about it, Facebook, crowdfunding, all that. Anyway, I let him speak about that. I don't want to steal his thunder. So he's an ACE-certified personal trainer, a certified sports conditioning specialist. He's also a director and mentor for a couple of races. I've listed it already. If you want to get in touch with Coach K, the email ID is given. He prefers to be communicated on email. He primarily focuses on coaching folks who have busy lives in corporates. Anybody who's got a busy life, just get in touch with him. Today, he's going to talk on racing strategies, and for the talk show, we have another full marathoner, Sujoyjeet. He wants to escape from this role, but I'm not letting him go. Sujoy also is from the same alumni as I am from IIT Kharagpur. So I am going to allow Sujoy to take over, and I'm going to go on mute. And this video is being recorded. The recording will be available tomorrow morning. I'll put it in a Google Share and share it with you, and you can watch it and enjoy it. Let me go mute. Sujay, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Srikant. It's wonderful connecting back with the world of runners amidst this COVID lockdown. I thought I'll never get a chance to meet a lot of people in one place, but I think the virus disease also has given us more opportunity to stay connected with the community, so that we're not kind of missing out a lot of things happening in the running circuit. For me, certainly this is a setback. The Ooty Ultra was scheduled to have happened on the 5th of April. I had to take a hard decision to postpone it, but we did that on the 12th of March, kind of predicting that something like this would happen. So I certainly missed an opportunity to meet a lot of runners. Usually it happens in the first week of April. I'm glad to stay connected with you, and also knowing more about your circuit, like the IITians and Plussy. I don't know if he's there in the call. So we spent some good time playing cricket in Singapore. Happy to be here today, and happy to share my story, anything to kind of improve your awareness and also knowledge, and also and of course everybody has got a lot of things to take away from our own life. We all face certain challenges and also take up certain challenges. Running is one of them. I'm excited to be part of this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being part of this session. And let me tell you from the start, of all the things that I've at least, done even a little bit research, racing strategies is something that I've never done any research on. Okay, the reason being that for me the idea of thinking about the pace and strategizing on different phases and thinking about if it should it be a positive split, negative split, it was just too much work. Okay, but I did hear people talk about racing strategies. Okay, that you should do this before the race, you should do this during the race, and you should do this after the race. So let me start from a beginner's mind, and help me out here. Let me start from me even starting the race. Okay, so say for example, tomorrow my race is going to start. Okay, or 2 weeks down the race, 2 weeks down the line, my race is going to be there. Okay, tell me what should I plan for three things, because I have a race and people talk about this pace. Okay, what should the pace be for a 21 or maybe a 41? What are the different phases? I call it the second P. Okay, so you have 21 may have two phases, or 42 might have five phases, six phases, seven phases. Okay, and then third, where people talk about, oh, your strategy should be dependent on where you are running. And if it is Mumbai, this is the, you have those hills and you have this thing, or if it is Delhi, it's a flat course. Okay, all that stuff, I do not know anything. So start from 2 weeks from my race day. What will you think about? What will you strategize?
Okay. If you're a newbie thinking about a race strategy 2 weeks before the race, I think that's a wrong place to start.
Okay.
Okay. Because your race strategy should be part of your training.
Okay. Okay.
So that's one of the reasons generally runners, newbies are advised to either train with experienced runners or with coaches, because the coaches are going to take care of strategizing and training plan to suit that marathon day specific preparations. Because running a half marathon or even a 10K or 5K or full marathon or ultra, the preparation mindset needs to be the same. Okay, because you need to put in that amount of quality time in terms of understanding where you're going to run, what this race is all about, what kind of weather condition, what kind of elevation profile. By the way, Mumbai Marathon, this elevation is actually absolutely ridiculous. Many people think about, oh, okay, Pedar Road, what am I going to do? It's absolutely nothing. It's just 1 kilometer of hike. You just walk across, go to the other side, and finish. Right. So I'll tell you these. So these are the things, right? So the preparation has to start, let's say, 12 weeks, 16 weeks before the event. If you're going to think about the race day and what you're going to do 2 weeks before the race, that is actually a wrong place to begin.
Okay.
Okay. Now, of course, if you're training for a full marathon, the strategy will be different in terms of the racing strategy, the pacing strategy. Now, I've also come across a lot of runners deciding the pace of the race on the day of the race, which is another mistake that most of them do, because if you have not trained specifically to a marathon need or the demand on the race day, and of course to your goal. So what is the objective? I think that's something that everybody should start with. If I'm training for a marathon, then what exactly is my objective? This objective has to be casted in stone. It has to be written in stone. If you say that my goal, of course, it's the goal we talk, I'm sure all of you here can understand the corporate jargons of goal setting, the SMART goal. I still believe in SMART. Day is a half marathon. You want to run a sub 2 hours, 15 minutes, because the previous race that you have done is, let's say, 2 hours, 20 or 25, whatever is the time, very close to that 2:15. It's a good milestone. As runners, we all like to kind of chase those rounded numbers, right? I can even quote that even if you're running 1 hour later, you see 7.5, your mind says that, okay, let me finish another half a kilometer, make it feet. So they're always nice to jump from 2:15 to 2:10 to, kind of 2:2. So that number needs to be written down, and then validate that whether that number is a realistic number to chase. Can you really do it? Right? I'm not going to talk about the goal setting process, but the goal needs to be a realistic one. considering your preparation, can you dedicate that amount of time? Because most of the time I come across my clients, they come with very aggressive targets. Somebody who's run a full marathon for the first time would say that I want to do a sub 4. Okay. Okay, tell me what's your full marathon time? It's like 5:15. And when do you want to do the sub 4? I want to do it like the Mumbai Marathon, which is 8 months away. So those are the uh, wrinkles that need to be ironed out even before you think about what you're going to be doing on the race day. And then the race day becomes not so challenging if the runner has been applying the race day strategies throughout the training. Okay, it could be including carb loading, right? So everybody thinks about carb loading only 3 days before the event or 1 week before the event, which is also wrong. 2-3 days before the event, they think about carb loading. 2-3 days before the event, okay, what is going to be your time? Okay, can I tag along with you? Okay, you're my friend. I know that you're going to be a pacer for 2 hours 15 minutes bus, and I'm going to join with you. So all this last minute decisions are not going to be always working. Okay, if you're lucky, you may get it right. If you're capable, if your body can accept that kind of a challenge, you'll be able to achieve that. But anything keeping till the 2 weeks, 2 weeks time is also not a good time to think about a race day strategy. Again, you talked about the phases, and of course, we'll talk about the phases. I don't know if so far I've addressed the aspect of 2 weeks before the event. What should I be thinking? 2 weeks before the event, you are in the taper mode. Most of the runners are, let's say, if you're following a principles of scientific periodizations, you are tapering down. You're not worried about the volume. You're not worried about building strength. You're not worried about developing new skills. You're only worried about sharpening what you have learned, what you have applied during your training period. And then you're basically believing that the taper is going to help me in recovering fully for the race day, because the taper time is also the most crucial time where most of the runners go wrong with their diet and nutrition. They continue to eat the same quantity of food that they were eating during their, let's say, the bulk phase, the peak phase, or even the base building phase, where they are spending a lot of time running and exercising. You're not spending so much time in terms of the exercise volume is much lower. The intensity could be much higher. You cannot be eating the same kind of food. You also need to make sure you're not bulking up. I've seen most of the ultra marathoners on the race day at the start line, they're heavier by at least 2 to 3 kilograms. Okay, when compared to their best training times. Okay, a lot of things can go wrong 2 weeks before the event. I've also seen runners picking up new exercises because they're curious to know. They're going and researching on the internet. They're reading a book. They're reading a book on how Kenyans run or marathon strategies, and suddenly you see that a YouTube video which says that, okay, you do this Bulgarian split squats, you're going to be faster. You're going to strengthen your hamstring. Do this exercise with a Swiss ball, you're going to be faster. Or you do this yoga stretches, you're going to be flexible and relaxed. So introducing anything new 2 weeks before the event is also a problem. So that's why the 2 weeks before the event, you're not going to try anything. You're not going to introduce anything new. You're going to follow a strategy. Tapering is important. Keeping the intensity is important. Making sure that you're strategizing the race by thinking about the race. And you're also assembling all your gear, your running shoes, including your underpants to shorts to t-shirt, everything that you're wearing. I remember whenever I have a big race coming, I'll make sure that I wear the same t-shirt, I wear the same shoes, same socks, and feel that you're actually at the start line every single time I go and train for my, let's say, the last 2 weeks before the event, tapering down training, and I basically wear the same dress. So these are some kind of tricks that anybody can adapt to prepare mentally. Physical preparation is all done. You're only keeping yourself very sharp.
2 weeks, you said that you start from 16 weeks. Your racing strategy should be built into your training itself. So first, help me understand what exactly is racing strategy.
Okay, See, racing strategy is nothing but what exactly you're going to be doing on that day.
Okay.
Races, the race day is defined, the time of the race is defined.
Okay.
Your starting pen is assigned to you.
Mhm.
You're running the Mumbai Marathon, let's say your starting pen is and then you know how much time you're going to take from the start line to let's say from your assigned pen to the start line. You're going to lose some time, and then there is going to be crowd. How are you going to peel off from the crowd, and what pace you're going to be running let's say the first few kilometers of the race? How are you, even before that you're going to think about what are you going to eat? Okay, one day before, 2 days before, 1 hour before the marathon, or 3 hours before the marathon. uh, what time you will sleep, what time you will get up, right? So everything is related to preparation for your race, mentally and physically. And the racing day, on the race, running strategy includes in what pace you're going to start. Okay, so what is the weather condition like, what is the elevation profile, and are you going to run alone, or are you going to run with your buddy who's going to give you company, who's going to be a pacer, or you're going to pace him, or you're going to tag along with a pacer, which is kind of designated pacers available in these running events. So you have to basically have a clear understanding of how you're going to execute. It's all theoretical, because
Mhm.
on the race day many things can go wrong, many things can go right, and you're not deciding and contemplating at the start line, okay, my training was all about finishing a marathon in 4:15, but today I'm going to try to attempt a sub 4. That's utter stupidity. Okay, that's not part of the race strategy. Okay, so that means you're not mentally prepared to execute your training plan, execute the plan which is probably shared by your coach, the advice given by the coach. I've seen, even with so much of coaching, I see many of my well-trained athletes getting carried away by the race day. Energy levels are so high. The weather conditions are very difficult. Now, I remember some of my runners would travel abroad to go and run in a cooler places like New York Marathon or Chicago Marathon. But they train in Chennai and Hyderabad and Bangalore and different places. But there you feel much fresher. You probably rested really well. The kind of food that you get is completely different. It may suddenly look like you're eating a lot of nutritious food. And then at the start, you probably had the glimpse of all the elite runners. You suddenly get off, all this energy boost. And then maybe in the expo, you bought a salt capsule or an energy gel. Somebody claimed that, okay, you drink this goo octane. You've never tried goo ever in your life. And then you feel that, okay, this is going to fuel me faster, and I'm going to attempt, because you also taper down, right? So if the body is slightly in a relaxed state, and you feel like there is also guilt that is going on in the mind of a runner, that I haven't run really well, I haven't trained really well in the last 1 month. But physiologically, there are a lot of beautiful transformation that have happened. You're actually ready to run a much quicker, faster than your train. Most of the time, you can actually, on the race day, you can attempt slightly a faster running strategy. So you cannot be thinking about all those things at the start line. You cannot let any diversions to take control of the situation, rather than you're believing that you have a plan. The first 5K, I'm going to hold on to the racing pace that my coach has given. And I'm mentally prepared that even if I miss the first kilometer be by 30 seconds, I still know how to carry this 30 seconds difference to the rest of the race, rather than catching up in the second kilometer. This is also another most common mistake. They suddenly see that, okay, your designated pace is 6:45, and then you're running at 7:30, and the first kilometer is 7:30, second kilometer is 7:45. There's a panic attack. Now, all this element should be included as part of the training, and you can't be thinking about those things. Those are distractions and noises as part of the at the start line.
From what I gather, okay, let me try to summarize it. Usually, we hear about these three horrors, okay, of endurance running. So three H's. We got the heat, humidity, and hills. Okay, so basically that's the environment. But I have added one more horror, okay, which I call it the horse. Okay, hold on to your horses. Correct. Okay. Now you did talk about the fact that people should be able to, manage their pace in the initial phases. Okay, so that they do not overshoot, or if they even start slow and they feel that they have lagged behind, okay, they should not get panicky. Question to you is, how do you tell your mentees, what strategies to use to hold on to your horses? Because that's the biggest thing that I've seen, and thankfully, I was able to hold on to my horse in my first debut marathon. That really helped me. But what do you tell your mentees to, how do we hold on to your horse? That is number one. And if your horse is a little bit late, how not to get panicky and try to ramp up? What's your suggestion?
See, the first timer at the start line, everything is theory, right?
Hmm.
Even if I say that you're going to feel fresh, it's theoretical. They haven't seen the start line yet. Or if I say at 32 you're going to hit the wall, at 35 you're going to feel groggy, at 38 you may get cramps. It's all theoretical, right? Now the only way I can prepare somebody is by positive reinforcement. So the reinforcements could be sharing stories about my experiences, and sharing anecdotes from my own athletes. Within my academy, somebody talks about what they did, what went right, what went wrong, you know, and then a collective knowledge of within the academy members. When they finish the running, they come and do a little bit of debrief to me, and also we do a retrospective. I know I'm kind of running this academy as a corporate guy, because you can't take that element from me. These are some of the best learnings that I've really benefited from. So we do retrospectives at the end of every run and talk about what went right, what did not go right, and what are you going to do differently. So these are all collective learning, right? And those reinforcements are really important. And then what I like to do is also to help them simulate those conditions during the training run. Okay. Now it's pretty easy for an ultra marathoner, especially the comrades marathon runners. So within my academy this year, there were 7 of them were getting prepared for the comrades marathon, but now the race is not there. So what I do is I travel with them. 6 months is the preparation time, and I most of the races I be with them. The long runs that they do, these are simulation run in mountains, 6 hours, 7 hours. They try out various things, right from how to run a mountain, how to run uphill, how to run downhill. How are you going to hold your posture? What are you going to carry? What are you going to eat? So all those things are hand-holded, guided to most of my runners. I be with them, especially with the ultra runners. There's a lot of hand-holding happens. So there are a lot of successful stories of first-timers going and finishing Comrades Marathon. My academy, I can tell you, the 2 of them. There's one gentleman who came to me in the month of, I think, December, after running the Chennai Marathon. He said that I finished the Chennai Marathon and I want to run the Comrades. Okay, fine. So when is it? Is it 1 year from now, 2 years from now? No. In June, I want to run Comrades, which is like 7 months, 7 months in time, right? So, of course, so determined the gentleman. I've shared a story in my website, Vasu Rangachari. You can see that amount of conviction that he had to run that event at the age of 55, 56, just after completing a fast, is probably fastest full marathon, 4 hours, 15 minutes. And so there's a lot of time we work together. We spend time, I spend time together with him, and also with all the other runners. So strategizing what you will be doing on the race day in small quantities. So when your training includes your race day uh, topics, race day strategies, so that is where the positive reinforcement comes into your mind. So the training should simulate your race day, whether it is distance or time or intensity or the toughness. Say, for example, you talked about heat. So you cannot be running in Chennai, practicing for Chennai Marathon training in Bangalore. Okay, now can you go to somewhere outside, or maybe training? I can give another example. So when I decided to run for the border 100 miler. So I had about 50 plus days to run the event. I didn't have a 1 year plan. I didn't have a 6 months plan. I just had about 55 days to prepare for this event because it's a kind of something drew in me and said, okay, I'm going to register for this event. And it's an interesting thing that I want to run a 100 miler by December. So my training would start at 11 a.m. in the morning. Okay, and then some days I would go towards north, some days I'll go south. Direction doesn't matter. I'll come back home after 4 hours. I'll carry enough hydration. I'll carry some fuel. I'll carry some cash. I'll buy some coke on the way and drink, or eat some bananas. Carry some peanut butter jam sandwich made by my wife, and I just go out and train, eat different kind of food. Sometimes even stop in a darshini and eat a plate of idli and then come back. So these are part of my training. So the heat factor, the fear on the heat in Jaisalmer on the December, mid of December, was kindly taken away from me. Okay, now heat is taken away. Now how am I going to simulate the cold weather condition in Jaisalmer? It was going to be 1 or 2 degrees in the night time with wind chill hitting you. But of course, in the month of September, October, I didn't have a chance to go and train in a hilly terrain, but I was only imagining that it's very cold and then running. The only thing that I did was I did a 12-hour run during the daytime from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., 2 months before the event, and then another 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. run 1 month before the event, just to get the idea of the darkness. Even running in nighttime, especially if it's a long ultra runs, you need to mentally condition your body to run in the nighttime. And also beating the sleep. And what is the sleep cycle that you're going to meet? Srikant said he ran the Malnad Ultra. I did the 110K. I didn't even know what time I was going to finish. But the race took about 18 hours for me to complete. And most of the time, after 6 p.m., it's all darkness. You're in an unknown territory. You cannot train for such events. You have to be in that terrain, and then you have to go with certain belief system, and then courage, and then belief in your training strategy, and the confidence. And you've kind of seen that things are going to go wrong, and you're going to come back, you're going to recover. So the heat and humidity, all these things will have to be part of your training. If you're going to be training in a cold place all through the year, suddenly you want to go and run in Ladakh, of course, don't expect the same performance. And that is where your mind should accept any outcome. If you go with the specific, so here is my advice to my clients. Okay, you want to run a full marathon. If you're a first timer, just go and run full marathon, and don't have any other expectation other than completing the race. Okay, now you have a baseline, you have a time established, you know exactly what your potential is. You also know where you fail, where the struggle zone could be. For some people, it is 10th kilometer due to poor food and nutrition that they had one day before. For some people, the struggle zone could be 20th kilometer. Maybe in the morning they did something wrong, or they didn't hydrate properly, they didn't carry their gel. And I remember one of my athletes that ran the Dubai Marathon, he gave all the gel packets as family members. And then his son was supposed to hand him the gel packet whenever he crosses. But at one point in time, his son was not seen. So he missed the gel. At a vital time, he missed the gel. Okay, now, how can you simulate a race day conditions? What can go wrong? You may not get the right food. You may not get the right kind of weather that you're training in. You have to really go with an expectation to accept. Now, comparing that with an event that happens in hills, of course, if you're a first time on the Ooty Ultra, if you've never run in mountains, come with no expectation. So there is also this fun element of running that most of us need to appreciate. When you're coming to Ooty, you're going to see a large part of Ooty which you have never seen in your life. You're probably going to explore these places. I remember one of the runners saying that even if I had paid 4,000 rupees to a taxi driver, he wouldn't have shown so many places. But the Ooty Ultra course actually gave me an opportunity to explore the village side and the beauty of these mountains, right? So the hills, unless you have a performance goal and target, you have to go and enjoy them. It's going to be tough. Every hill is a monster. Every downhill is a monster. There's also thinking that Comrades Marathon downhill is much easier than the uphill. No, it's all ridiculous understanding. But you may be a strong runner in downhill. Okay, you may have good hamstring. You may have good biomechanics to attack running form could be really good. You may be doing really good in downhill. But some runners, I like to be, I think I do really well in uphills. I don't do really well in downhill. So it's kind of mental, but can you go with only that strength? No, you cannot go with only that strength. You have to prepare. So heat, humidity, hills, if your expectation is performance, then make sure your training includes these components, heat, hills, and humidity. And then the last part is, okay, if your training does not include any of these parts, you have no idea of how it's going to be facing a hill, or going to a place where it's going to rain one day before the event. Okay, you have no idea. Now, Hyderabad Marathon, many people collapse because of the sudden humidity attack. It looks so beautiful one day before the event, and maybe in the afternoon it rains, and next day morning there's a lot of humidity. The sun is high. At around 21 kilometers, you're crossing these bridges, going up and down. Heat hits you, and you have no idea. But one thing that you're not ready to change is your pacing strategy. You're not basically changing your strategy to suit that requirement. So that's why my advice to beginners is, till you complete around 5 full marathons, don't have ambitious plans about time and performance. I want to beat my PB. No, it's the first 5 to 10 marathons should be just for fun. Don't chase numbers. You'll have a superb fun, because every time your goal is basically simply to enjoy the ambience. Because I always say that don't try to get everything right now. Okay, so you don't need to get it right now, right? So you can get it tomorrow, you can get it right, let's say the after tomorrow, maybe next week or next month or next year. Because running is actually a lifelong journey. It cannot start and end. Because I remember posting a video sometimes back after my interaction with a friend of mine. He defined what is not a purpose. What is not a purpose is anything that has an expiry is not a purpose. So if your goal is to run 4:15, it's not a purpose. It's not a meaningful purpose, because you're going to achieve that 4:15, and what next? Okay, so if you enjoy running as a lifelong journey, then you will not worry about heat, humid, and hills. You basically use them as a challenges to fight. Okay, I'm going to try something new. I'm going to enjoy. I'm going to learn something from these experiences.
So from what I hear is that for beginners, okay, they should have a good purpose that will help them, okay, to handle heat, humidity, and hills. Okay, they'll be able to enjoy it, or at least take it in their strides. Okay, and if they can train in these three modalities, heat, humidity, and hills, it makes them much more well prepared. Now, say that we have moved from 5, 6 marathons, and right now I am fairly seasoned. How do I prepare a race plan?
Mhm.
Okay, race plan. Let's take Mumbai for an example. How do I prepare a race plan? Like, you talk about phases and all that stuff. What would be your strategy, to tackle that? Negative split, positive splits. Okay, hydration strategy during this time. What's your take on this?
These, again, there are a lot of strategies that are available depending upon the belief system of coaches. Uh, my strategy is not the same across all the runners. Let's say that 10 of them going to run Mumbai Marathon, not all of them will follow the same strategy. They'll have different strategy, and that strategy will be evolved based on their training, how they did very well in the training. We did some simulation runs, they did the long runs. What is their volume? What is their injury profile? What is the nature of this person mentally? Kind of mental strength profile is also really important. If somebody is mentally very strong, can hold on to, let's say, a patient runner, okay, who can show a character, attitude, not rushing type, will get a different pacing strategy when compared to somebody who's in what do you call, coach, I want to do this, I want to do this, do what am I going to do, what am I going to do? There's a kind of nerve wracking. Every I've seen some of my athletes would call me 2 weeks. It's all different individuals, they all wired differently. They have certain performance expectations, the expectations from themselves, expectation from the events, expectation from the training. They're very dedicated. I've seen that those individuals who are 100% sticking to the plan, they suffer a lot. Okay, they suffer a lot from the race day outcomes because they're very sincere. The sincere most people are the most sufferers of the outcome if the outcome is not the desired one, because they are too strict about themselves. Because, so that's why these strategies are not the same. And of course, there are many strategies available on the internet. 18, 18, 18, or 777. You can follow any of those things. If you're a beginner, if you do not have a coach, if you want to try something, just go with no expectation. Pick up something and apply those strategies during your training days. Okay, let's say if you're doing your longest run is 20 miler, make sure that that same strategy is applied on the 20 miler. Make sure that you're wearing the same shoes. Make sure that you're wearing the same socks. Your hydration is the same. Nutrition is the same. And even carb loading is the same. You're getting up, let's say if your race time is 5:30, you can't get up at 8 o'clock and start training for a marathon simulation. You have to get up at 3 o'clock, wait for that 4:35 to happen and then go out and run. Okay. So the strategy is not the same, and it differs from person to person. And it also, it factors. So as a coach, what I do is I study the coach. And I remember somebody went and ran the Big Five, one of the marathons. It's called as the Big Five Marathon in Africa. I have no idea what that course is. I've never run that. It's easy for me to advise somebody to go run a marathon in, let's say, Comrades or Ooty or Javadu or any races that I have run. It's very easy. I can relate to that. But if I do not know, as a coach, I cannot always coach only for the events that I'm comfortable with. Right? So I'm also challenged sometimes. Somebody has to. I've trained a runner who went and did a back-to-back Ladakh full marathon and a 72K. Okay. So now I study the course. I understand the weather condition. If it's Ladakh, then I also read about acclimatization. I have no experience. It's only theory, but I basically come to a level where this preparation, if I prepare for this event, what is that I will do? So that's the way I prepare, and then I go and share that experiences. And I also facilitate certain conversations with somebody who has already run these events. And so that way, we kind of, I'm not pushing somebody in a blind room, right? So these strategies evolve over a period of time, depends upon the goal, depends upon the weather condition, and also the strategies also to have path A, path B. And of course, the many theorists would say that don't give option B, because your mind always settles down to option B. But it all depends on who would take these options. Is somebody really good at execution? Then for those people, I would give option B. But then they know that exactly, okay, if option A is not working, then I switch to option B. Especially in races like Comrades, where you have a time pressure, you have a cutoff pressure. It's actually, Comrades is a much easier race to run. But I think this, even this overly talked about because of the cutoff time, and because we read a lot about the failure stories. We don't read a lot about how easily somebody has finished. There are many people who finish kind of relatively in an easier, stylish manner. But they don't talk much about, because when you write, I went and finished Comrades, nobody is going to read that. We say that, what happened at the start, what happened at 10. I think many people read those kind of stories. That's how our human mind is all about. We are only looking for problems, and we are only preparing for how to solve those problems. And we are kind of focused on solving the problem rather than appreciating, oh, okay, these are the things that I'm going to exploit. My strength is this. My nutrition preparation is really well. And my pacing strategy is going to vary depending upon the racing day condition. If it rains, what am I going to do? Okay. Or many people who ran the 2013 or 12 Comrades Marathon, there was a dust storm. Okay. And nobody expected this. What are you going to do? You prepared for a 9 hours, 30-minute strategy, but on the race day, there is something else happens. But there is a rain at the start. Your shoes are wet. What are you going to do? Okay. Or many people who are traveling to another destination also misplace their baggage. Okay, so all your running gear is in the check-in baggage, but the race is one day after. You don't have your favorite shoes. Okay, so the preparation starts right way ahead in time, 3 weeks to 2 months to 3 months, depending upon the importance of the race. Because some people would qualify for another race, so the race becomes really crucial. A full marathon finish of 4 hours or sub 4 hours would guarantee somebody a place in certain 10 and certain races. Boston qualifier, you know that they have to finish in certain. So those are very performance oriented races. The strategy will be completely different. For a beginner, the strategy would be so they're mentally prepared to go and finish the race and then enjoy. And I don't even give a pacing plan for absolute beginners. It doesn't work. It doesn't work, because they really cannot focus on too many variations on the marathon day. So it's not one strategy. It depends upon the personality to personality. It varies. Race to race, it varies. Your goal drives the kind of and just imagine that somebody had a stomach ache one day before the event or fever. They picked up some kind of food poison. So what are you going to do? The strategy is just going to be in a paper. On the day you may do varies. I can give another example. My own experience. 2016 Comrades Marathon, South Africa. So this is basically Pietermaritzburg to Durban downhill run. Of course, there's a lot of dilemma whether to travel or not. I had some issues, but I decided to go to experience. I went there to see where I was going to fail. Okay, I knew that there was somewhere I'm going to fail. I was not ready for the race, and now I was thinking about my mind is fighting that problem. Exactly 1.5 hours before the race, I'm getting into my pen, and then I slip and fall. There was a gutter. There was a drain hole. My leg is stuck, and I fall down, twisted my ankles. Okay, now all of a sudden, all the other problems have vanished, and I've got a new problem to deal with. And I pulled myself, and I was actually limping. I couldn't put my foot down. Then I went below a street light, and I saw that there was a big kind of instant swelling around my ankle on the lateral side. So what am I going to do now? Should I abort the race? Should I just go? Should I continue? I thought I would fail in 60, 70 kilometer. I thought that I'll probably have to bail out. But luckily that race, since I decided to continue running without kind of driving myself into thinking that I'll not be able to perform, I actually finished the race. After up to about 20, 25 kilometers, I had shooting pain on my leg. And then after 45, if you're an ultra marathon runner, or if you're a first time full marathoner, you know that your body aches all over. Okay, you don't even know which pain is more than which other pain. You're dealing with the different kind of a physical challenge, and then you get over that. And then you're dealing with some other challenges like the psychological issues and the mental mind related challenges. So the strategy cannot be same for everybody.
Strategy keeps on varying, okay, depending from people to people, but people should take care of at least knowing what their strengths are in terms of their nutrition, or the ability to handle certain pace and things like that, and prepare strategies accordingly. But they also need to take into consideration things that can go wrong, okay,
Yeah.
and prepare alternate plans, right? Things that can go wrong in terms of losing out on your nutrition, losing out on your gear, facing a certain weather conditions. So not just get stuck with plan A, that this is the plan A, I cannot deviate from this plan A. Should have a plan B, and sometimes even a plan C, just in case if things go wrong, so that you are prepared for that one.
Yeah. So the
When things go
one
wrong,
thing one
yeah.
thing I would like to highlight is it doesn't mean that you don't go with your own strategy. Okay, so you have to have you need to be aggressive about it now, because everyone, when you're running a marathon, it's more than fitness, right? If you're running only for fitness, you don't need to run marathons. Nobody needs to run marathon. So if you're running a marathon, of course you have certain expectations, and you need to be serious about that. Anybody for that matter. And if you're not serious about that, then what's the point in training for a marathon? You can just sign up, just go one day before, wake up, go and try to do whatever you're trying to do, right? Everybody is serious. Every runner is serious about their goals and objectives. But you need to be aware of things that can go wrong. And And you can't always design your training plan for failure. You have to design your training plan for success. And on that day, you have to positively stay connected with your plan, with your training, with your mental toughness, with whatever advice that you've listened. Don't introduce anything new on the race day. This is an example that I always like to give, that you all have prepared for exams. 1 week before the exam, your mind is totally tuned to reinforce and strengthen whatever concepts that you have learned. You can't suddenly introduce a new concept and say that, okay, this is a new chapter I have to prepare, I'll get 5 extra marks. So you're basically going to lose the focus on the strengths, the things that you already know, and you're basically chasing something else. So I think this is something that can go wrong with even in a marathon day. On the day of the marathon, I remember in Comrades Marathon, at the start line, I had some pain, and somebody advised me, "Hey, I've got a ibuprofen, and I'll give you 1 strip. You can just have it, pop it in every 10 kilometers." It was so easy for me to have taken that advice on that day, but I said, "No, I'm not going to try anything new. I'll see where I'm fine." Okay, so that's why we always say that don't try anything new on the race day. Now, of course, these are all the elements. It's not just about your shirt and shorts and shoes and socks. It's also what you do, what you eat, who do you interact with. Stay connected with positive people and enjoy everything. And you have to have a strategy and be aware of anything that can go wrong.
In marathon, I'm just going to take marathon as this thing, because most of the issues start from marathon and in upwards. You do end up things which are, uh, I would not say some mishap that just happens by happenstance. It just happens because, it's part and parcel of the game, like cramps, wall. Just getting on that particular day, you just have to go to the loo, either to, for number one or for number two. Okay. During this time, what are your advice to your, mentees? How do you handle cramps or walls, or for that matter, even because you have beginners and you also have, intermediates. Okay, let's just talk from their perspective. How do you handle such scenarios? But you have prepared a plan A, you have prepared a plan B, and this is where things get stuck. What do you do?
See, when you're going to get a cramp, where you're going to get a cramp, can be predicted most of the time. If your training has a lot of specific aspect of the race day, you can actually predict when you're going to cramp. Okay, and also which muscle is going to cramp. Is it calf? Is it vastus medialis? Or is it your hamstring? Is it your glutes? It could be your shoulder, neck. It could be anything. Or anything can, because running is also very monotonous. You're basically a lot of repetitive movement. So that's why general advice is train the entire body. Don't train only legs. If you're a marathon runner, because you're comfortable about 20 kilometers, 30 kilometers. That's what the simulation. Then on the 36th kilometer, your shoulders are hurting. Okay, and your neck seems to be very uncomfortable. You're dealing with a different pain there. Your heart is fine, your legs are fine, but your neck is cramping, or your arms are cramping, your fingers are becoming numb. You haven't seen all these things. So that's why the training should simulate to a very large extent on dealing with this kind of cramps, which are neuromuscular. Okay, because cramps are broadly divided into 2 types. One is anything to do with the neuromuscular type of cramp, and the other type is related to your electrolyte imbalance, sodium depletion, those kind of things. Okay, but now let's say if you've done adequate endurance training and you know that your muscles can take that load and volume of running. It's a repetitive movement, right? So the muscles also have certain life cycle before they say no longer I can operate at this intensity, or because most of the people include volume, intensity, but the training is not very specific to the weather condition or even the, let's say, hill and the running conditions. So that's when you end up cramping. You're running at the same pace. You suddenly see a hill and then you're slowing down. You have to slow down because coaches advise you to say, you need to slow down. You need to maintain same effort. And then you're suddenly realize that if I slow down, your average pace is going down and there is a psychological war. between you and the watch and the course. So now what are you going to do? You'll eventually push to run faster. So if you're going to run faster, you're burning out. When you burn out sooner, then your muscles are going to cry much sooner than what they are actually designed to do. And then, of course, suddenly you hit a cramp. Of course, cramping can happen even on the most of the time. Cramping happens on the race day. It's that's the Murphy's principle. Whatever training simulation, because on the training days our mind is not ready to push the same way how our mind will push on the racing day. Okay, it's very difficult. You need to be super strong mentally to simulate the exact race conditions during the training. So that's what the trainings are all about. Okay, and then if the cramp hits you, of course there is a panic attack. You have to switch to a different strategy. The strategy is to recover from the cramp, because that is the problem. Now you need to address the problem. You cannot say I'll go faster than my usual pace so that the cramp will vanish faster. No, it's going to stay longer with you. Okay, and that's when, if you're going to have only running as a strategy, if it is cramping, then you have to switch to run walk as a strategy. See if you can walk, if you can sit in one place. Most of the time the cramp eases out, but it is still there. Okay, your muscles have convoluted, and there is some damage at the tissue level happen, and then there is going to be some amount of pain. Okay, now you have to walk, change your strategy. That okay, I'm not going to, time is not important right now. I have a bigger problem to solve, that is my cramping. So you have to slow down, you have to walk, cross that zones, and make sure that you're breathing a lot of oxygen, talking to yourself positive. Okay, I'm going to get through this. And then see if you feel all right, and then try to run at a reduced intensity. See if you can run for 10 steps. Everything is fine. Walk for some time, run for 20 steps, and that's how you have to reach the finish line. If the cramping resumes, you have to slow down. You can't beat that. It's definitely, I'm not seeing anybody running with cramps. It's impossible. The body says shut down because there's something seriously going wrong. And you're going to hurt yourself, because think about, if you're hurting yourself during the race, think about, okay, when are you, to what extent the damage is going to be. Okay, how much time you're going to take to recover from this little disturbance because of cramping, or injury because of cramping. So you have to think about all those things and kind of settle down to what the course is going to offer. And then most of the time, my experience, I have experienced cramping because of lack of endurance. My training didn't simulate enough of those conditions, and then probably I lack strength training, I lack, let's say, balance and stability issues. And then basically your joints are not firing, your muscles are not firing in the right. If your glute needs to fire, the glute needs to fire. Otherwise, they're going to be your hamstring overworking, or your quads overworking, and you're ending up in cramping in certain places you're not supposed to be cramping. Okay, so that's about cramps. Either it's due to endurance, due to poor or incomplete training, or the race day conditions are not simulated as part of your training. Your nutrition, especially your sodium imbalance, electrolyte imbalance, those are things that need to be fixed or addressed during your training time, and those things can be addressed. That's the beauty of training. You can address those things. You can stop cramping. I remember cramping at 30th kilometer to never cramping in my runs. I remember the first ultra marathon, I had cramped heavily at around 45. I think I did the first ultra was in Chennai way back in 2014. I did a 50K. The Bangalore ultra I did in 2013. I was cramping after 3 hours. At the same time, when I compare myself to running the Jaisalmer to Longewala 160 kilometers day and night, I've never cramped, not even a single place I stopped for cramping. I had stiffness in my TFL. I had stiffness in my lower back. When those are race day, because you're punishing your body. My training was never 27 hours, 28 hours. But on that day, I'm doing something extreme. So then you have your experience that comes in hand to help you. I never cramped during the Malnad Ultra. I remember that. So it is possible to train so that you beat this cramp masters.
From what I understand, specifically for cramps, you really have to simulate the training environment, and be mentally prepared also, because you really do not want to run through a cramp and then end up injuring yourself a big time. So good stuff here. Cramping is one, hitting the wall is another one, right? I get cramps, I still start running somewhere, and then I hit the wall. Okay. Strategies for managing the wall, what do we do?
To put it in simple language, your body runs out of fuel. Okay, and I'm sure most of you have experienced that. You're all experienced runners here. So the our body, for running, we need energy. The energy comes from different fuel sources, and of course the fat source is the most trustable source. Ultra marathoners generally rely a lot on fat storage and utilizing the fat as a running source of fuel for running, because the ultra marathons are all not done in the same intensity as a full marathon. So let's not worry much about the fat part. Okay. So now, so what is the type of fuel that short format of race? You're going to depend a lot on the carbohydrate energy. Anything that is stored in your muscle, anything that is available in your liver. So these are the sources of energy, and of course glycogen in terms of chemical name. So this is the energy that is going to fuel you throughout your run. Okay. It's kind of ready to easily consume, available to the body. The blood can carry this fuel, the circulatory system can take, the muscle tissues and cells and everything can understand this fuel, the ATP, and a lot of kind of technical stuff behind science behind nutrition and fueling is a very exciting topic. Now let's only talk about where do you get this glycogen. This is from the carbohydrates that you eat before the run, right? So we talked about carb loading. Carb loading, generally the advice is to start 3 days before the event. Close to about 80-85% of your fuel source is carbohydrate and rich carbohydrates. Okay, let's say we also have the simple carb and complex carbs. So the general recommendation is complex carbs. You're going to avoid fibrous food. You're going to avoid fatty food 1 day before the event. So these are some of the carb loading strategies. Now, anything that is stored in your muscle and like in the form of a glycogen, liver glycogen, is what is going to use as a primary fuel for your run. Roughly, if you're an adult, for me, I'm like 62 to 65 kgs. Usually, I have a stored energy if I properly carb load. So this is roughly about 300 to 400 grams of glycogen. Okay, so which is equivalent to about 1,200 to 1,000. Max carb load is about 600. So about 1,600 kilocalories is what is my stored energy to run the half marathon. Okay, now let's say half marathon is 21 kilometers, and my energy requirement is roughly 21 multiplied by my body weight. Okay, so that's the amount of kilocalories that I need. So if you see 60 kgs is 20,200. So that means I can run a half marathon theoretically without eating anything during the run. Okay, without adding any more carbohydrate source, because my body has enough stored energy. So this is for half marathon, right? So you don't need to really carb load. If you've carb loaded very well, you don't need to worry about additional fuel sources during the run. Okay. Now, in a full marathon, the same store, you cannot increase this carbohydrate storage in the body. Okay, so you're basically going to run out of this fuel, the stored fuel, and that's where we need to replenish them at a regular interval so that it stays with you till the end of the run, right? Now, at one point in time, you're basically losing more energy than what your body can understand. Okay, you're eating bananas, you're eating chickpeas, glucose biscuits, and all these things are there in your digestive system. They haven't reached the intestine to kind of start using this energy. You think that eating a banana is going to give me an instant energy? No, it may take 2 to 3 hours before you actually see the benefit of having the banana. But at the same time, an electrolyte, which has also electrolytes also have, depending upon the tonicity, the sugar level, it's going to give an instant high, because the absorption of sugar starts from your mouth. Okay, and if you're taking gels, again, the general recommendation is to don't consume the gel as it is, consume with diluted and consume it so that the absorption is much quicker in the system. So when you run out of the fuel, that's where you get the feeling of hitting the wall. Okay, so the timing of the fuel, the type of the fuel, amount of carbohydrate load that you already have done in the body, what intensity, how soon you're losing this carbohydrate storage or the energy reserves, all those things matter. That will determine how soon the wall will appear in front of you. Okay, so again, definitely the training should help you simulate the nutrition, right? It's not, training is not about running and exercising. It's all about preparing yourself for what you're going to eat, what you're going to drink, what interval, what quantity. Have you done a sweat test? Do you know how much sweat you're losing per hour in Bangalore, in Chennai versus in Ladakh? Everything is part of training standard. And then you can have, of course, running days are very different. Some of my athletes, I put them to run only 90% of their race day intensity throughout the training. But on the race day, they'll experience something new and it becomes a cumulative learning. Once you finish the run, and there is going to be some discussion and see if you can get better in the next race. There is nothing called as a perfect race. Every race teaches us something new. And of course, your plan needs to keep changing in terms of how you are going to approach your next race, and then try to introduce some small changes. It's, I believe in the Kaizen, what Kaizen teaches is small improvements, right? So don't try to fix 10 parameters, try to fix one. Cramping is a problem. That's the single most problem that I will really worry about before worrying about speed and marathon finish time and those kind of things. If I feel that fainting kind of a sensation, maybe there are some health issues that you need to address. Maybe your hemoglobin, women runners generally suffer from hemoglobin count issues, and maybe the menstrual cycle is hitting them on the marathon day. So there are different problems that everybody faces. So the wall, of course, you have to beat the wall, smash the wall. You cannot conquer the wall in the day one. You have to conquer the wall by smashing it part by part. Okay, so that's why the training is absolutely important. As a coach, I can talk a lot about the importance of training to beat the wall.
Once we finish the race, we want to cool down, and usually after a marathon, we want to have fun and we want to meet up with people and everything. During training, some people, do some stretches and everything. What's your cool down strategy?
See, generally the last few kilometers allowed to keep them the best. Okay, like the fastest, I would say, if not the best, the fastest. Okay, because the feeling of finishing a marathon by dashing into the finish line, giving your 100% effort, is something that cannot be defined in words. Okay, so that means you have given most of the time. If I look back into my HR readings, even in a full marathon, my heart rate touches about 180 in the last 100 meters, or let's say last 10 meters, because I'm like kind of dashing into the finish line, because that's a kind of happiness, right? The first thing that you need to let your body cool down is by either walking or running, so that the circulation is back to normal. I think most of I hate some of these marathon finish lines. The moment you finish, they're in a hurry to come and put the medal on your neck. And I really don't like that kind of setup, race day finish setup. You need a runway space. It's like a plane flying 10,000 miles, and you need a runway which is like 4 kilometers long. You need that runway even while completing a marathon. Ultra marathon is different because the intensities are not pretty high. You don't need a long runway to recover. And you're probably finishing the race in a mountain, so you're anyway walking and going there. But a 10K race, 5K race, 21K, all this city runs, short format races, the energy levels are really high. Your heart rate is very high. The circulatory system, a lot of blood in the lower extremities. You have to let it settle down in the body. Okay, you have to let the circulation come to normal. So most of the runners carry the heart rate monitor. Make sure that your heart rate is back to normal, maybe 100, 110, depending upon your recovery art, depending upon your age. depending upon what intensities you have finished the run. So let's make sure that you are settling down with the blood circulation first before you think about celebrating. Physiologically ready, mentally satisfied with the race, because breathing engine is really, really hard. Don't try to drink water. Don't try to electrolyte. Just shut down for the, okay. And then recovery can take anywhere between 5 to 15 to 20 minutes, depending upon kind of race that you have done. And don't engage in photo shoots and interviews, and of course that these are all part of the package, right? So when you go marathon, you will have a lot of people asking questions, and everybody is excited about to your coach or to your spouse and to inform about your success. Just settle down 5-10 minutes and then resume your activities. And then another mistake that I've seen most of the people doing, immediately after the finish, they stretch. They stretch the body. That's where cramps. You're already cramping till the finish. You're again coming out, and then you've not even come out of the cramping. You're trying to stretch. Bad idea. But you have to stretch to an extent where this cramp is easing out, but not to stretch as part of your post activity exercise cool down process. Okay, so that stretching can wait for about 30 minutes to 40 minutes. I've always benefited from doing a lot of deep stretches after 30 to 40 minutes completing the race, before I sit in the car or bus or before I walk to the hotel. So that also definitely helps me recover. And then of course, within that 30 minutes of replenishing nutrition, the protein and the required amount of carbohydrate, small sips of water is much better than gulping too much of water, because your digestive system is not ready yet, and then it needs time to recover, and the blood circulation needs to. So if you really see physiologically, when you're exercising and you're in really high intensities, only 2% of the blood circulation is there in the digestive system, whereas about 60-70% is on the lower extremities, legs. They all need to come back. The venous blood has to come back to your system. Only then you can start activating your digestive system. Okay, so these are a few things, and calm down and then rest. Put your leg up. Make sure that you're also eating, and also don't go to this stretch tents. And we know there's recovery tents where they a lot of stretching that they do. All those things can wait for about 30 minutes, and then go and find your space and enjoy those stretches. Okay.
Good.
Yeah, and then the celebration can start.
Good. So I think we talked about pre-race thought process, then start of the race thought process, during the race thought process, handling heat, humidity, getting trained in these protocols, how handling your horses. Then we also talked about cramps, training for actually, one of the interesting part was having plan A, plan B, etc. And then celebrations. From my perspective, I think most of the questions I have asked. Srikanthan, do you have any questions? Any of the team members have any questions?
Anybody has any questions, they can post it in the chat window and I'll compile it and hand it over to you. So one thing that I could relate to what Kannan said is that the Hyderabad Marathon, the last year that I ran in August. In fact, I don't know whether Kannan, you were there?
I was there. That's one marathon that I wanted to really do well last year, but I picked up my knee injury just before some days, and then I did only the first 10K and then decided.
Yeah. So what happened was, it was raining until 3 o'clock in the morning, and then I was concerned that it was going to rain and it's going to be a problem. By the time the race started, the rain has completely stopped, and maybe by half an hour into the race, it started drizzling again. I had a strategy to finish the race in 4 hours and 45 minutes. Till the 27 kilometers, it was awesome. I was on target. And as Kannan said, after 27, the elevations and the heat became so unbearable that my only goal was to finish the race. So instead of 4:45, I took another extra 8 minutes and finished it. End of it, it was a good feeling. It was definitely a good feeling. Because as Kannan said, there were some veteran runners who really struggled. People who do a full marathon in like 4 hours 15 minutes. They took like 5 hours 15 minutes because they just couldn't cope up with the heat and the elevations towards the end. Yeah. So I just don't have any questions. I just wanted to.
This has been running in my mind for many years, that as runners, most of the time we are hopping from one event to another event. This is like most of the runners. I'm not saying everybody does that. There are a few early wiser runners, who think about much more rationally than kind of driven by emotions and social media and peer pressures. So the typical mentality is to run from one event to another event, chasing certain numbers, and you get satisfaction, you achieve it, you beat it, and then go to the next race. Maybe the distance is longer, maybe the time is faster. It kind of different terrain, so the goals keep shifting, right? Now, most of the runners that I come across are all recreational in nature. Okay, so you have a day job, you have your purpose in life is not running. Running is part of your entertainment quotient or fitness quotient or health quotient, and then for the social angle connected with running. Now, many runners they start and they suddenly move from 5K, 10K, 21. It's a very fast moving number. Now, if you compare to some of the runners in the let's say the American or Europeans, if you see the way they start running is at a much younger age. They are basically as track runners and short distance runners, 100 meters to 200 meters to cross country like 5Ks and 8Ks and 10Ks, and then they gradually progress to half and full over a period of 10 to 15 years time period. But here there's a lot of energy, enthusiasm, motivation, opportunities to run many events. So we are moving from one event to another event, but there is not much of focus given to understand whether my body is physically ready for events to events. Okay, is there a way I can fix the issues that we have picked up by sitting like this in one single place for 1 hour 15 minutes? We are actually punishing the body. We are developing certain stiffness. Your hip flexors are always in compression. Your hamstring is always in stretched condition. The glutes are stretched, and you're creating the imbalance. This imbalance is very visible in most of the adults. So the first thing that I do as a coach is to do an anatomical study to see what kind of imbalance you carry. Your neck, your hip, your kind of lower back issues. Do you have any kind of lower cross syndrome? And so those issues can impair your running performance, or you're going to hit a ceiling very soon. But those little differences in the body, the imbalance between the upper body versus lower body, your front to back, posterior, anterior, your lateral side to the medial side, the flexibility, all these things can hurt you. You cannot scale up beyond a particular point, however fast, whatever new strategy that you adopt, new running gear that you wear, or Nike Vaporfly, all those things are not going to take you faster, right? So that's where I thought about, is there a way I can fix my foundation? Because I'm trying to build a very large tower, but my foundation is much weaker right now. So that's exactly the reason, the purpose of launching a program called RCF, Reconstruct Your Foundation. It's a 1-month course. You join the academy, you're basically going through a systematic way to learn and develop your awareness towards what those foundation elements are, and then fix those things. See a small improvement within that 1 month and carry this into your training plans, because once the marathon race season starts, nobody has time to even think about the foundation. Okay, so that's the latest offering from me, other than the marathon, ultra marathon coaching, and also general health and weight management. These are the kind of programs that I offer. I teach 8 concepts by keeping our human anatomy as a basis to teach us something, because our body can teach us a lot of wonderful things. I have learned a lot of things by studying human anatomy and exercise science and how to develop and train your body. There are a lot of parallels because of my physical development. I think my mental and psychological development was much more meaningful, I would say. And also my approach to life also was transformed because of running ultramarathon. So all those life lessons, last 28 years of me working and kind of playing different roles, I bring all those elements into this program. It's a 1-day workshop, which can be done in an off-site, relaxed place. But I understand right now, due to COVID lockdown, we cannot do any of those things. I'm just sharing all these things, and of course, you're most welcome to connect with me for a discovery call. Even it could be anything about your running. It could be related to weight management, nutrition. So these are my very passionate topics that I like to share my stories, relate to my own experiences, and also help you get better with what you are right now.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, fantastic,
Thanks, Coach.
Kannan. Thank you for being here and on short notice. And I really enjoyed the session. And we will anyway keep in touch. Um, though we are like only 3 kilometers away from each other.
Thanks a lot, and
Thank you.
happy running.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thank
Stay
you.
home.
Thanks, Coach.
Stay.
Bye.
Bye bye.